All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about another head coach and his recent comments, and that is Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. So I think it's been 24 years since the Dolphins won their last playoff game, and the last time they won a playoff game, it was actually against Peyton Manning, a young Peyton Manning. So yeah, it's been a long time. And they're looking to end that. And to give Mike McDaniel credit, the Dolphins have made the playoffs the last two seasons. The problem is they did not win either of those games. And I thought we could all say that they played a better game against the Bills in the playoffs as opposed to the Chiefs. And that was when they had Skylar Thompson playing quarterback. They scored 31 points on the road against the Bills in that game. Well, there was a defensive touchdown in that game, and the Bills turned the ball over. So, yeah, the Bills kind of helped them out a little bit. But still, the Dolphins, they had a chance to win that game. But, I think we could all agree they really didn't have a chance against the Chiefs, in that weather. So, but, yeah, they're trying to end that drought. So this is what Mike McDaniel had to say recently. You get what you emphasize. Well, why not find ways to emphasize finishing in everything you do? Obsess about it. Why not have for half the offseason you're trying to have staff meetings at different times during the day? I had every staff meeting I put at like 7:24 or 3:24 or 5:24, the number 24. To you guys, it means nothing. That's how many years it's been since the organization has won a playoff game. We are going to hear about that come playoff time, you think. So to me, you do that to empower guys to know what's coming, to understand it, to not run from it. And we'll see if narratives are based upon past and hedging opinions moving forward. So to me, I think it's important to get in front of that, and I know what's coming for players that are going to experience it directly, and then leaning into that. I think it's hilarious to say, now that you have pressure on you in this business for the reason of, are you blindfolded with earplugs in? Like, dude, it's achieve now or watch out. Well, it's the same thing in regards to, hey, things have happened. Those two things. The last two seasons, the seasons have ended a certain way, and about 30 to 40% of the team were part of it. The other portion of the team wasn't. What can we learn from all this, and how do we adjust, and what we do now to hedge our bet then, and little things. You take whether it's a game or we need to finish the season better. You also said, let's go attack it, and let's go achieve something together. That's the reason why I bring it up, just because I know no matter how much I tell people to not listen, it's impossible not to hear the noise coming. There's always going to be noise. Whatever. Just address it, and let's do our jobs deliberately and with the mindfulness today that can be applied in the future. And he said, when I got hired, another thing he said, when I got hired, I said it in my first team meeting. It was 22 years at the time. Just because, you don't hire someone for moderate success or failure or anything. You hire them to win, and I know we have to do that. Nothing has really changed. I don't feel pressure that way because I feel way enough pressure having the job in general. I don't need any. There's not any more to do or any more to. You're hired for a reason, and you understand that, and you're trying to help be a part, facilitate, and be a part of a team that can succeed in the failures of the previous 22 or 24 seasons. I knew what I was signing up for with this job. So he had a lot to say, a lot of interesting stuff. See, it's funny because you got Dan Campbell, some of the things he says, and then you got, Mike McDaniel. They both have different styles, but it's just it's funny like having like back-to-back segments of these two guys. Because you got Mike McDaniel, who's very like cheesy and, well, I don't know. Well, is he cheesy? I don't want to know. I don't know. What's like the right word to describe him? Quirky, I guess. Because then you got Dan Campbell, who's, I just told you how he brought up Ron Burgundy and, wanted the whole enchilada. It's just, it's funny. But look, Mike McDaniel has not won a playoff game, and I think he is a good coach. I think the Dolphins do have a lot of talent on their team. But yeah, they haven't been successful recently. And I think he's using the playoff drought as motivation. And I think, you want to find ways to motivate your players. And yeah, it's true that you could try your best to block out the noise, the outside noise of whatever may be going on, but it's going to be hard to just completely suppress it. And yeah, that's what they're going to hear about. And on top of that, last year they did have a good year, but if you get into the specifics of it, they had trouble against teams with winning records, and they ended up losing in the playoffs. They choked away the division to the Bills. They could have had the 2 seed. They lost that. And then they ended up playing the Chiefs, and they really never had a chance in that game. But those are the teams that you're going to have to beat if you're going to want to go far. I think their first objective, because that's really what this is about, is ending the playoff drought. Just winning a playoff game. And can they do that this year? Well, this upcoming season. I think they definitely can. But they got to go out there and prove it. Now, I had them ranked third. I know I keep bringing this up. I had them ranked third in my AFC East rankings. But that does not mean that this team cannot make the playoffs. This team can make the playoffs, but it's going to be as a wild card team. So, yeah, it's really going to be tough when we get closer to the regular season, and I got to, when I do my predictions on, who's making the playoffs and who's not. Because there's teams I look at, I'm like, oh yeah, the Browns, I think I could see them making the playoffs, and the Steelers, I could see them making it in as like the last wild card team, and you got the Ravens and the Bengals battling it out for the division, and then you got the Dolphins and the Bills and the Jets. I think they could be playoff team. There's so many teams that I could look at and say, yeah, I think this team can make the playoffs. I think this team, but there's only 3 wild card teams. So, the Dolphins have to get to the playoffs, and then we go from there and see who they match up against. But yeah, I mean, Mike McDaniel. I mean, that was a lot that Mike McDaniel had to say. When he's starting meetings at these particular times, because with 24s, yeah, I mean, he wants to put in everybody's heads like, hey, this is how long it's been since this organization has won a playoff game. We want to end that this year. They've gotten to the playoffs the last 2 seasons, but they have nothing to show for it. They are emphasizing like, hey, we got to do it this year. And I'm curious to see what will happen if they don't make the playoffs. Like, is Mike McDaniel gone? I think Mike McDaniel's a good coach, but got nothing to show for it in the playoffs. So, and I think there's, and I haven't mentioned the quarterback because I think that's part of it too. I don't think Tua is the long-term answer. I think Tua has put up solid numbers, but again, I think he's holding the Dolphins back. And I think they got to. And it was interesting because we did have this conversation about Tua in one of our production meetings. I forget, was it yesterday or the day before? It was either yesterday or the day before, but a point was brought up like, hey, maybe the Dolphins, like, I mean, it's obviously it's unique that this happened, but you had Brock Purdy come in for the 49ers, and they've been able to make it to back-to-back NFC Championship games and made it to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, with the 7th-round pick. Maybe, like, if the Dolphins go in a different direction, maybe they find that diamond in the rough, and that quarterback takes over, and they go further with him. But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I'm not saying that's what the Dolphins are going to do. I mean, the Dolphins seem like they want to pay Tua, which I think is a mistake. But, when you go to the alternative, I mean, what quarterback is going to be available? I mean, a Dak Prescott, you're going to want to pay him to bring him in? I mean, I don't think Dak Prescott is a significant upgrade over Tua. I mean, I think Dak is probably better than Tua, but I don't think he's that much better, in my opinion. But I don't know. We'll see. But I thought that was just something interesting because, yeah, I mean, the playmakers around Tua, they elevate Tua. It's not the other way around. You want to have it the other way around, where you got a quarterback that's, he's you want it to be mutual. You want the quarterback to bring out the best in the receivers, and you want the receivers to bring out the best in the quarterback. You don't want it to be one-sided. Well, you don't want it to be one-sided when it comes to the receivers making the quarterback better. Because, look at Patrick Mahomes. And, I know Patrick Mahomes is, the best quarterback in the NFL. But, they traded away Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. And the first year without him, you had Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. You still have Travis Kelce. But, yeah, you don't have Hall of Fame receivers that he's throwing to. Receivers. Obviously, Travis Kelce plays tight end. First ballot Hall of Famer. But you know what I'm saying. With Tua, you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They have to elevate Tua. It's just, but that's my opinion on it. We'll see if the Dolphins are able to end the playoff drought. But I think it's gonna be tough because the conference is a gauntlet. So I'm gonna leave it at that. So let me know what you guys think. Will the Dolphins finally end their playoff drought this season? Will they win a playoff game? Let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows. And like I said, I'll be guest starring on the Chip Shot Football Podcast later in the day. So make sure to check that out. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to check that out. Check out all the other shows. And yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care and have a good weekend.